This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. Who's Next format, simply put, be the first to leave a comment at the bottom of this video stating the team you want to see next and the phrase next. Doesn't matter how you phrase it, doesn't matter how you put it, as long as you're first and those two components are in the comment section, you'll be next and I'll be doing the team that you put in the comment section. So we move on to the team of the day, the flavor of the day, and that is the Cleveland Browns. And how the draft wrap-up series works is that we use our baseball grading scale here in the lab room to analyze drafts, looking at each and every single draft pick of the team in question. Today we'll be talking about the Cleveland Browns, and we'll pick apart the draft, give each and every player a grade using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series. We'll get an aggregate score for the entire draft of this team, and then we'll move on to the next one. That's how it works. So, without any further ado, let's get to the big board. I've got my handy-dandy pointer. Let's break down the draft in 2014 of the Cleveland Browns. And this draft is interesting for so many different reasons. The first reason, obviously, Browns have 2 first-round picks. Any team with 2 first-round picks, it's always interesting to see what they do with those 2 first-round picks and how they go about utilizing the draft thereafter. And so for the Browns, it was really simple. Hey, let's continue to build for future drafts, which is always smart. And they end up coming away with an extra first-round pick next year. So great. And the draft for the Browns, and the thing I like about the Browns, they make it really simple on me and guys like myself who break down drafts, is that they don't waste your time with a whole bunch of extra 6th and 7th round selections. And it's not like it's a waste of time. Some teams value those picks. Having extra picks at the end of the draft, they feel like, hey, if I've got 4 7th rounders, if I've got 2 6th rounders, if I've got 3 7th rounders and 3 6th rounders, that I'll hit on 2 or 3 of those guys and feel really good about what I've done. The Browns, that's not their style. The Browns said, hey, look, we'll get and this is why I love the Browns draft, because only about 6 players are going to make your draft anyway. I mean, if you draft 12 players, then hey, maybe you'll have a better chance of having 7, 8, or 9 make your roster. But if you're a team and you take 6, 7, 8, 9 players in the draft, like most teams do, then the probability of 5 or 6 players making your roster is extremely high. You look at it from the perspective of a team that drafts maybe 12 or 11 players, you'll probably have, 5 or 6 of those guys make the roster and the other 5 won't. And so what the Browns do is they try to eliminate all the fat. They trim off the fat, so to speak. Okay? I don't need the 4 7th round picks. I'll trade those away. I don't need the extra 6th round picks. I can get rid of those as well. Just give me the picks that I know can make my roster. And if you got it like that, cool. When you got 2 first-round picks, you got a 2, you got 2 3s and a 4, you can do that. Now, not everybody has that kind of ammunition. Hey, I need my 5th round pick if I don't have an extra first, an extra third. Yeah, I need my 5th round pick. I need my 6th round pick. I need my 7th round pick. But if you've got it this way, I'd prefer to do it that way because, again, if you're done drafting by the 4th round, as the Browns were in 2014, every single player has the ability and a really good shot at making your roster because all of these guys are highly sought after draft picks within the first 130 picks. So you expect these guys to make your roster and you expect yourself to have come away with really good football players. So let's get to the draft for the Cleveland Browns. Last year, the Browns elected to pass on the entire draft, essentially. This year, they really did a great job of getting specific players that they wanted off of their board and then getting out of there and saying, hey, we're done. We're finished. So, and they stockpiled some draft picks for next year. So look, we start in the 1st round, 8th overall selection, Justin Gilbert, cornerback out of Oklahoma State. And to me, I've been high on Justin Gilbert the entire process. I thought he was one of the better corners in the draft. At one point, I thought he was the best corner in this draft. When I left the combine, looking at his movement skills, looking at the size and his playmaking ability, I felt like he was the best corner at the time when I went back and watched some tape. However, I found that there were better corners in this draft. But the upside, and much like Greg Robinson with the Rams, you're not picking this guy because he's the best corner right now. You're picking this guy because he's a really good corner right now, and he has the ability to be the best corner down the road. And not just in this draft, I'm talking about in the league. He's got that type of ability. So you're going off of potential more so than the finished product. And so he's drafted at 8th, first corner off the board. And keep in mind, Browns come back to 9, then go up to 8 to snag Gilbert from the 4 hole. So Justin Gilbert for me is interesting because I look at this guy, 6-foot corner, long, and you know that's what the NFL is starting to move towards. It's shifting towards corners being longer, taller, and have the ability to run and keep up with these bigger, faster, more physical corners and so, or excuse me, receivers. And so Gilbert fits that mold. And the thing that fascinated me watching him is all the things that I just mentioned. The height. He has Champ Bailey-like movement skills. And that's rare in a corner. The ability to stop, to change direction. But he's not Champ Bailey. Because Champ Bailey was polished. He was ready to go. And he would come up and challenge you. But he would always stay hip to hip with the receiver. And if he ever lost the receiver, he had blazing makeup speed to get back into the play. And his ball skills were exceptional. With Justin Gilbert, I'm still trying to figure out because I feel like something's missing. And also, Champ Bailey was a willing tackler. I don't think Justin Gilbert is a willing tackler. That's one thing I know I do not like about his game is that he doesn't get involved in the run game enough for me. He didn't get off of blocks well enough. He doesn't shed blockers and get to the ball carrier. He's a guy that, hey, I'll help if I can. If I don't, hey, you know what it is. And I have a problem with that. But aside from that, it seems like something's missing in his game. Now, the guy's a playmaker. He goes after the football. I love it. And I already talked about the height. I already talked about the speed. He's a height, weight, speed specimen at the cornerback position. But I don't know if it's sometimes, and this is another thing that kind of perturbed me a bit. It's not major, but he's a trash talker. And I feel like you can get him out of his game. If you're making catches on him and you're talking trash to him, you can get in his head and force him to do some things that may be out of his character. So that's something to look for too, because he talks a lot of trash. He's a trash talker. He gets involved in the game, but he's one of these guys that I don't know if he necessarily can take when you talk trash to him necessarily. So that'll be interesting to see as well. He can be a hothead at times, but the guy's got everything you're looking for in a cornerback. I just want to see him be more assertive sometimes. I think that's maybe what I'm missing with him is I need you to be assertive. I need you to come up, challenge guys, make guys work on every single play. Like you see the great ones, the ones that are classified as elite, the ones that every time you talk about best corner in the game, their names run off the tip of your tongue, whether it's Joey Snatches, Richard Sherman, Darrelle Revis, whomever it may be. They make you work on every single snap. I mean, there's generally no plays off with those guys. You want the football? Yeah, you might get 7 catches for 87 yards and maybe even a touchdown, but you're going to work hard for those yards. Seems like sometimes you can get away with easy stuff against Justin Gilbert. I want to see him contest the football just a little bit more because he's aggressive. I'm not saying that he's not, but I'd like to see him be even more aggressive because his skill set says that you can be over-aggressive because you have the makeup speed, because you have the length, because you have everything that's necessary to be aggressive on every play. I want to see you be aggressive on every play. Yeah, you're going to get beat when you're aggressive on every play, but guess what? You've got the makeup skills. You've got the ability to change the fact that you were beaten off the line. Because you've got makeup speed, because you've got length. So I want to see you go up and challenge receivers. I want to see you not give up an easy 7-yard gain. Not give up anything easy. Challenge everything. That's the next step. If you want to be great, challenge everything. And that's what I challenged Justin Gilbert to do. But everything's there. The speed is there. The height is there. He gives you extra added return value. The guy, to me, has the potential to be one of the better corners in the league in 5 years. But he's got to want to be great. And I want to see that. And it seems, I'm not saying that he doesn't want to be great, because it seems like he wants to be great. I need a coach to get in his ear and say, hey, challenge everything. Nothing slides. Nothing slides. Okay? Joey Snatches is on the other side, and he's challenging everything. That's why the Browns just broke him off. Challenge everything. And first round, 8th overall selection, cornerback out of Oklahoma State. It's simple. You can put it on the board. Yeah. It's a home run. You know it. I don't have to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It's a home run because Justin Gilbert brings the entire package to the table, and he gives you extra added value, special teams, and what he could be in 5 years is what Joey Snatches is right now. After that first contract, essentially. Joey Snatches came into the league. You had your doubts. You had your questions. You knew the guy could play football. He evolved into one of the best corners in the league. They're hoping Justin Gilbert does exactly the same thing and learns via osmosis from Joey Snatches. So we move on to the next first-round pick. Quarterback out of Texas A&M, 22nd selection overall, Johnny Football. Johnny Laces, Johnny Pigskin, a.k.a. Johnny Manziel. And this was a highly anticipated pick. You knew it was coming. Cleveland seemed to be the place he was supposed to be. He belonged in Cleveland. And you just wanted to know, when were they going to pull the trigger? When they were at 26 originally, had to trade up to 22 to make sure they got his services. Couldn't wait at 26 to make sure he'd be there. Smart on the part of the Browns. Again, get your player when you feel the need to get your guy. You know how it is. And so, Johnny Football, this is a simple evaluation. I mean, I didn't have to watch any tape. I watched plenty of Texas A&M football this season. Way too much for my liking, if you want to be honest. And so, they forced it down my throat, and I can't lie. I consumed it, and I really didn't complain about it. Maybe I was a little full, but I always seem to make more room in my stomach for Texas A&M football. So, look at Johnny Manziel, and the knock on him, a couple of things. A, can he play from the pocket consistently? Can he win from the pocket? We know the dynamic playmaker that he is and all the things that he brings to the table, but can he do that at the next level? That's number one. Number two, his height. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse because we talk about height all the time, and we see Russell Wilson, we see Drew Brees, and we see these guys have so much success. However, that's not the norm. That's atypical. And if those guys were the norm, then we wouldn't be talking about quarterbacks' height. But the fact of the matter is, 6 foot and under quarterbacks generally don't succeed in this league. That's a fact. So you want to stop talking about the height, but you can't, because it's real. That exists. That issue is a hurdle that you have to overcome. And so it wasn't a problem in college. Let's see if he can make it a non-factor at the next level. I'm hoping he can. I feel like he can, but again, you got to find throwing lanes. You got to make smart decisions. Guys are huge. They'll bat your passes down if you don't throw over the top. And so we'll see what he does. But let's talk about the player on the field, because there's the whole distraction thing off the field, the marketing machine that is Johnny Laces, and we could talk about that for days, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Johnny Manziel, the football player, and this is a guy that's dynamic, that has the speed. You talk about, is he fast enough? Is he this? Is he that? Yeah, he's fast enough. 4.6 and some change, that's plenty of speed at the quarterback position. That's more than functional movement skills at the quarterback position. He'll be able to outrun some defensive ends, not all of them, but most of them. He'll be able to outrun most defensive tackles. And so that part of his game I'm not worried about. The ability to escape the pocket. He'll have his moments where he's able to get away, extend the play, find guys. He'll make some tremendous plays. The question is, can he? Because they didn't give him a lot at Texas A&M. Hey, they said, hey, look, we know that your plate is already full, right? So we're not going to give you that much to digest. We'll give you a small portion here, small portion there, and you get to pick off of your plate and eat only the things that you like. And so at this next level, sure, they're going to start him off slow and they're going to give him a nice sized portion of food, meaning the playbook. And over time, though, he's got to be able to eat everything they give him on his plate. He's got to be able to say, hey, I don't like mashed potatoes, but I'll eat them because you put them on my plate. I don't like peas, but you put them on my plate, so I'm going to eat them. Hey, I love the steak. Give me more of that. But you can't be picky and choosy in the National Football League. At the start, they can. You find out what works, and you give it to them. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to do some of everything at this level. He didn't do a lot at Texas A&M. So it'd be interesting to see how they bring him along. Do they bring him along slowly, work his way into this league, and kind of see what works for him, what doesn't work, and then kind of build off of that? Because his offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, has had experience with a quarterback that's a dual threat in Robert Griffin III, and we saw the give and take, the struggles that he kind of went through in Washington with Robert Griffin III. You saw the things that worked, the things that didn't work, but what happened when teams started to make adjustments? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So we'll see, but Johnny Manziel has to be able to get it done from the pocket. And that, at the end of the day, is the biggest question mark that everyone has for Johnny Manziel in Cleveland, is can you get it done from within the pocket? You put on the LSU tape, you put on the Missouri tape, and it's clear as day. Their game plan wasn't to go up the field and try to go hunt Johnny Manziel. It was to, hey, let's just contain this guy. Let's just keep him in the pocket and make him beat us from behind the center. And he was uncomfortable in that environment. He can't be uncomfortable because, again, I said the same thing when I evaluated Jake Locker a few years ago, is I don't want to hear that you're most uncomfortable from the pocket. That's the thing I don't want to hear. Because guess what? As a quarterback, where do you do your most work from? Within the pocket. So I don't want to hear that you're uncomfortable in the pocket. I need you to get very comfortable, because that's home for you as a quarterback. The pocket is your home away from home. And so I need Johnny Manziel to be consistent from the pocket. If he can do that, I think he'll still be able to make plays. He'll still be able to wow us with some of the things that he's able to do. He's got enough arm strength. He's got enough athleticism. He's got everything you need to be a winning quarterback in this league. I think he's a competitor. He wants to win. So he's got all the intangibles. Is he a leader? We'll see. We will see. Is he a leader in Cleveland? But the package is there. Everything is there for this guy to come in and change the losing fortunes of this Cleveland Browns organization. And so, in the first round, 22nd pick overall, quarterback out of Texas A&M, Johnny Manziel. Simply put, he's a home run. And so, You knew this was going to be back-to-back jacks for the Cleveland Browns in the first round. They take it deep. And guess what? Teams around the league, they love the long ball. And the Cleveland Browns just hit 2 of them in the first round. Back-to-back jacks. Justin Gilbert. And now, Johnny Manziel. You move on to the second round selection of this Browns football team. 35th overall selection. Offensive tackle out of Nevada, Joel Bitonio. Love this pick. Now, this was a controversial pick. Not because Joel Bitonio wasn't worth it. Not because Joel Bitonio isn't a good football player. But because we found out officially as fans of the league, it was made public record that Josh Gordon was going to be suspended. Now, we don't know how long. Sounds like the Browns are appealing the decision to suspend him. It's probably going to be a year-long ban. It might be 8 games. We don't really know the full extent of this situation. Sounds like they feel like it may be a tainted sample. I don't know. Haven't heard a lot about it. I just know that the Browns, they seem overconfident about this situation. But they may have had a game plan. And I think that's what we all came to the conclusion was that they had a game plan. Ray Farmer and company had a game plan going into the draft. This is what we want to do, and this is how we want to execute it. We want to get this guy first, this guy second, somebody at this position, whatever's there, third, and then we'll go from there. And they wanted tackle in the second round. And Joel Bitonio was the man on the board. And I tell you what, there's a lot to like here. I mean, Joel Bitonio, I fell in love with this guy at the Combine. I mean, he was the first guy up in the Combine in 2014. I mean, literally, the tackles went first. He was the first guy up. His last name is Bitonio, so his name starts with a B. And he was the first guy I saw watching the 2014 NFL Scouting Combine. And I said, wow, that's a great start to this Combine. This guy ripped off a sub 540, and he was just consistent the whole day. I mean, everything that he did, you said, man, this guy looks good. So I put on the tape, and unlike some of the other guys that I fell in love with at the Combine, like Jordan Tripp, this guy, his tape matched up with what I saw at the Combine. I just said, man, this guy's got great movement skills. And I'm with Mike Mayock, okay? Until somebody proves to me that this guy isn't a tackle, then I want to put him at tackle. Why move this guy inside the guard? Don't give me the short arms and he's 6'4" and he's not big enough. Until somebody shows me, gives me visual proof and evidence that he's not a tackle. Who says he's not a tackle? And I love what I saw. So you say, okay, well, he played at Nevada. Who'd he play against? He played against Florida State. You know, they've always got a plethora of guys that can get to the quarterback, athletic freaks. Shut them down. They were quiet. Okay? What about UCLA? Arguably the best defensive end / outside linebacker in this draft in Anthony Barr. He went off the board first at the outside linebacker position, or excuse me, he went off the board second at the linebacker position. But as a true 3-4 outside linebacker, he was one of the first to come off the board. I mean, Khalil Mack not included because he's so versatile, it's hard to put him in a box. But I can put Anthony Barr in a box and say he's a 3-4 outside linebacker, first to come off the board essentially, and he put him to sleep. Joel Bitonio, and I was more impressed with what he did to Barr in the run game than in the pass game. Barr beat him once. I had Barr beating him one time and getting to the quarterback. It wasn't for a sack, but it was a hurry, and he got to the quarterback. But Joel Bitonio basically shut him out in that game. No sacks. He didn't give up any hurry. He gave up one hurry. And in the run game, canceled him out. Picked him up, moved him out of the way. He was non-existent in the run game, basically non-existent in the pass game, and it was all because of Joel Bitonio. He didn't move around. He wasn't all over the field. He was up against Joel Bitonio the entire game, and Joel Bitonio won in the discussion. And that's what this guy does week in, week out. He wins. He's mean. He's tough. He gets out to the second and third level. He can move his feet. His hands could be a little bit stronger, but he's mean. And so that makes up for his hands not being as powerful. And because his feet are so good, he doesn't have to have long arms necessarily. He can anchor well enough for me. He's not a huge guy, but he anchors well. He protects his quarterback. He does all the things that's necessary to be a really good offensive lineman in this league. And I think he can still be a left tackle, to be honest with you. I don't even think you have to kick this guy over the right side. I think he can survive in this league as a left tackle. You already have a left tackle, so conventional wisdom says he'll move to right tackle if he, in fact, is playing tackle for you. I don't want you to kick this guy inside. I don't know what the plans are for the Browns here, but I'd love to see Joel Bitonio stay at tackle because I think the guy can play tackle and be really good at it. From what I saw, I was so impressed with Joel Bitonio. I mean, I really was. I really liked what I saw, but I want to see what the Browns have in store for him because this guy can play football. And I haven't seen one thing on tape that I really just didn't like where I could just say, all right, he needs to clean this up. He run blocked well. He had a nasty disposition. He pass blocked equally as well as he did in the run game. I like Joe Bitonio. No, he's not 6'6". No, he's not 325 pounds. No, he doesn't have vines for arms. But the guy gets the job done. And at the end of the day, that's all I care about. And I love Joe Bitonio. And I love him so much that in the second round, 35th pick overall, offensive tackle out of Nevada, Joe Bitonio is home run for the Cleveland Browns. Back to back to back jacks for the Cleveland Browns. Tally up another home run. You can put it on the board. Yes. And so, now we move on to the third round. 71st pick overall, linebacker out of Iowa, Christian Kirksey. And watching tape on him, I was impressed with some of his movement skills. When I think Iowa, I think of slow guys, period. I don't give a damn what position you play, receiver, linebacker, defensive end, you're slow. Because you're in the Big Ten. I'll just knock you for being in the Big Ten. You've got to overcome my clouded judgment of you because I have preconceived notions about players in the Big 12, Big 10, whatever they call themselves right now. So you tell me you're from Iowa, I say, okay, you're slow. You have to prove me wrong because I'm going into the tape saying, okay, you're slow. And so when I started watching Iowa football and I started watching Christian Kirksey, I said, all right, prove to me you're not slow. Prove to me that you're athletic and that you have movement skills. He said, okay, I can do that. And the first way that he proved that to me was that he was over the slot. And this is the thing. Iowa's stubborn. Watching the tape, I learned quickly Iowa's stubborn, all right? Meaning they don't want to come out of their base set. You have to force Iowa out of their base sets, which is a 4-3 defense. Their three linebackers are all world in their mind, and in order for you to get them out of their base set, you got to put 4 receivers minimum on the field. You put 3 receivers. Most teams, you put 3, you put 4 receivers on the field. Hey, nickel package, dime package. They got to put that extra corner on the field because they're not confident in their linebackers' ability to play over the slot. Iowa just, look, unless you've got some kind of dynamic freak out there as a third receiver, I'm putting my linebacker over the slot, and we're keeping 3 linebackers on the field. We're staying in our base. So they're a stubborn football team. And the reason why they felt comfortable doing that is because Christian Kirksey has no problem playing over the slot and keeping up with most slot receivers. Man, I was thoroughly impressed with his ability to run with these guys. He would play about 5 yards off and seemed to be able to keep pace with them. I mean, I didn't see guys just ripping him in that slot. I mean, he was there. And so that was impressive. And he'll come up, he'll help in run support, but he's a little light. And sometimes he can get washed into play. But I like his movement skills. I like his ability to come up and challenge and be aggressive. He's very aggressive. I like that. He's always in the play. Whether he's on the backside and he's coming with backside pursuit or the play's 5 yards away from him and he's got to sprint over there. He's one of these guys, the motor runs hot at all times. I love that about him. I mean, I can't tell you how many plays where the play starts, he's not even in the screen. When the play ends, he's diving on the top of the pile. He's pushing the pile back. And I'm like, where did you come from, man? You weren't even in this play. You're not even supposed to be showing up. And so the guy's motor runs hot. And I love that about him. On every single snap, he's a high energy guy, very athletic, ran a sub 4.6 40, so he can cover over the slot. He's versatile. That's the thing I like about him the most. He's a very versatile linebacker, but he's not a playmaker. He's not going to get, and they blitzed him at Iowa, doesn't get in on these blitzes. He doesn't time them up well. Sometimes he can be over aggressive. I just talked about the motor running hot and this guy flying around the field. Well, sometimes he can be over aggressive, over pursue very easily. I saw him do that on a number of occasions where he just overran a play, missed a tackle. But all in all, the guy gives you versatility, and I think that's what the Browns like the most, the fact that he can play over the slot. He can be some type of replacement for a guy that was a Brown for a very, very long time in DeQuell Jackson. I think he can come in, and DeQuell Jackson was really good for you as a coverage linebacker, and I think Christian Kirksey can do that. I think he can come in and give you that kind of look. And you went out and you got Carlos Dansby in free agency, and to me, he's a really good coverage linebacker. Will pick the football off, and so we'll see if Christian Kirksey can learn from a guy like Carlos Dansby, and maybe when Carlos Dansby moves on, because you know he's an older linebacker, maybe Kirksey can step in. But Kirksey plays on the outside, and Carlos Dansby is an inside linebacker, but he can learn some tricks of the trade from him, and think that if he can find a way to bulk up a little bit, be a little bit more physical, and play under control a little bit more, because again, once he starts flying around, he's one of those guys that he starts flying around. Sometimes he doesn't have the blinders on, and he just runs from sideline to sideline, but there's no purpose to what he's doing. He's got to slow down sometimes, come under control, and make sound tackles. But I like this guy. I like what he brings to the table. I like the fact that he's versatile. Third round, 71st pick overall, linebacker out of Iowa, Christian Kirksey for me. He's a solid gap-to-gap double. And you thought I was going maybe triple with what I said, but again, I think that he's a guy that's not going to make any plays. He doesn't wow you with anything that he does. He's just a solid football player, but you need those on your football team. You need solid football players on your team, and he's a solid football player, and he's versatile. He's going to help you in multiple areas. He's just not going to be great at anything. I don't think. I just think he's going to be extremely solid at everything you ask him to do. And he's a high-energy, high-motor guy, and I like that about him. But he's a double for me in the third round. You move on to the second third-round pick for this Browns team, 94th overall selection, running back out of Townsend, Terrance West. And it's funny because I told a story about him in the day 2 coverage of the draft, and I talked about me being at I want to say it was a Christmas party and or Thanksgiving party. It was some kind of party I was at. I don't even know what we were celebrating. I was just at a party, some kind of social gathering. Let's just call it that, okay? And they had a couple of flat screens on the wall, and ESPN was on, and it was a Division II football game, and it's a playoff game, and it's a snow game, and this guy, I'm seeing some guy just going bananas, and I'm like, who is this guy? You know, and like I said, I had no business watching the game. I mean, I'm at a party with other people that I know that I should be conversing with, and I wasn't being a social outcast or anything like that. I wasn't glued to the television set, but you know, I'm a football guy, and so some football's on TV. I'm going to watch it, you know, and I couldn't help but see this guy breaking off run after run, and I saw the feet, I saw the movement skills, and I'm like, who is this guy? What's going on? Why is he doing what he's doing? And it's in the snow nonetheless. And it was Terrance West. And that was my first exposure to Terrance West. And I want to, look, this guy is a workhorse. And this is the one thing that scares me about him. And it's the same thing I said about Le'Veon Bell coming into the draft last year for the Steelers, is that he's a workhorse. And the guy has well over 300 carries in the last 2 seasons, I want to say. I mean, he's a workhorse back. I mean, there's games where you watch Townsend and you're like, man, how many carries is this guy going to get? I mean, They have no shame in their game. They will turn around and hand this man the football 40 times. No issues. I have an issue with that, okay? Don't wear the tread off this man's tires before he even gets to the league. And I understand you're worried about your program and winning games, but my goodness, don't you have another back you can platoon in there? I mean, yeah, the guy's a special talent, but don't kill him. And he's a very durable back, but if you're the Browns, you've got to be worried that this guy already has tread off the tires, okay? They ran the brakes off this man at Townsend, and so that's something that is definitely a concern for me. But he's a bigger back at about 208 pounds or so, and with his height, I think he's about a 5'9" back or so. That's a pretty big back, and he moves well for his size. He's not a blazer, not going to run by anybody, not going to win any foot races, but man, he has some good feet, good change of direction. I think he has really good vision, and he can make guys miss. He's tough. He falls forward normally when he's running the football. I would love to see him secure the football a little bit better. I mean, there were games where when you're an elusive back, you see this a lot of times from elusive backs, where you just don't have regard for the football. You're in your mind, nobody's touching me. I'm going to make them miss. So you're not even thinking about ball security because you're like, hey, you got to get me first to make me fumble the football. LaShawn Shady McCoy to me is a guilty party of that, where he's got the ball out here and he's juking and he's doing Reggie Bush, same thing. These elusive backs, they feel like, hey, you got to get me, and you're not going to get me, so I don't worry about ball security. When you get close enough, I'll put it away. And Terrance West is another one of those guys. He makes people miss. He's elusive, especially for his size. You look at him, you're like, okay, he's not going to make me miss, but he can make you miss. And because of that, he's got the ball out here. He's got the ball down here away from his body, and he'll fumble the football, and that's something he'll have to clean up at the next level. But I like his feet. I like his ability to make people miss. I like that he gets the tough yards. I like that he gets better as the game wears on. He wears on you as a running back. He's physical. Not only can he make you miss, but he'll try to run you over and get extra yards. He's a tough back, and he smells the end zone. You got to love guys that smell it. Last year alone, the guy had 42 touchdowns. No, I didn't stutter. I didn't make a mistake, and that's not a misprint. 42 touchdowns, and the majority of them, rushing touchdowns. The guy has a knack for getting in the end zone, and he smells the end zone. And when he gets close by, he's getting in, and I like that about Terrance West. But this guy has been worked. He's literally a workhorse, and he's got to protect the ball better. And he's not a huge, long speed guy. And so in the third round, 94th selection overall, running back out of Townsend, Terrance West for me is another solid double for this Browns football team. And he's going to come in and he's going to compete to start. And it was crazy because I heard in the mini camps that this guy came in and he looked small. And I don't know what that means. I mean, I need elaboration on that because, again, I don't know if you're talking height-wise. I don't know if you're talking weight-wise. But the guy that I saw on tape, he looked to fill out his frame fine for me. But maybe he lost a couple of pounds. Maybe you were expecting him to be 5'11". I don't know what you were expecting. But obviously you got something else. And so I want to know what that means. Did he come to camp at 197 and you're like, hey, man, I need you to put those 11 pounds back on? I don't know what that meant, but obviously he was a little bit smaller than what you were expecting. But maybe he's trying to get faster. I don't know. But I like the Terrance West the way he was. Don't try to be something that you're not, because you'll never be a 4'4", 40 guy, okay? You're a 4'5", 4'6" back. Just keep doing what you were doing. That's what got you drafted. And so he'll be a solid addition to this Browns roster, especially for a team that didn't have any good running backs. The one running back that I thought could do something for him, and Dion Lewis, got injured before the regular season even started. And so you look at the 6th and final selection for this Browns team in the 2014 NFL Draft. 4th round pick, 127th overall, cornerback out of Lindenwood, Pierre Desir. And I absolutely love this guy's nickname, the French Assassin. Oh, I love it. You know I love it. The French Assassin. And so Pierre Desir, one of the most electrifying playmakers in terms of picking off passes in all of college football. Not, at the Division II level and not in his conference. I'm talking about the entire landscape of college football. This guy picks the football off. And the thing that makes him a very intriguing prospect in the National Football League is the fact that he's a longer corner. And we talked about that with Justin Gilbert at the top of this draft, is that the NFL is shifting to a longer, bigger, faster cornerback position where they want their cornerbacks to be 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", and have movement skills like a 5'11", 5'10" cornerback. And so Pierre Desir fits that mold at 6'1", about 205 pounds. He's what the league is looking for now. The bigger, longer, rangier corner that can move and make plays on the football. And this guy has everything in his arsenal. The one thing that the scouts were a little worried about him with is his speed. His long speed isn't what you would like it to be. He's a 4.58 40 type of guy. And they were hoping he would run a sub 4.5 40. If he could have done that, we're talking about a second round pick here. Really simple. If he's got the long speed to be able to flip his hips and turn and run with the elite receivers in this league, he's a second round pick. The fact of the matter is, teams are scared, and we're scared. Didn't scare the Browns away. And in the 4th round, this is great value. That when Deshaun Jackson, when an elite receiver with speed eats up his cushion, when Antonio Brown is in front of him and starts running extremely fast, is Pierre Desir going to be able to flip his hips, turn around, and keep pace with him and be hip to hip with Antonio Brown? Will he be able to be hip to hip with A.J. Green? Young, fresh, and green. Will he be able to turn around, flip the hips, and go much faster than slow? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Because everything else is there. The length is there. The ability to high point the football and make a play on it, that's there. He's a willing tackler. Everything that you want in a cornerback is right here in the French Assassin, Pierre Desir. So that's the only question I have, because everything else that I saw on tape makes me smile. You make me smile with my heart. Oh, right here, Pierre Desir makes me smile. When I see this guy on tape making plays like he's a receiver on the football, snatching the ball out of the air, playing the ball better than half of the receivers. And again, he did not play against elite competition. I do not care. You know how I feel about that. Okay, so you play at Lindenwood. Dominate the competition. And he did. So how does that translate to the National Football League? He's long. He's athletic. He can make plays on the football. That translates anywhere. Canadian Football League, the AFL, NFL, doesn't matter. If you're long and you can play the football, it translates. So that I don't worry about. The thing that you do have to worry about is, can he keep up with faster receivers? Because in the NFL, he's not going to see guys that are at the Lindenwood caliber at the NFL level. Guys are going to be blazers. Guys are going to be bigger. Guys are going to be stronger. Guys are going to be faster. So he's going to have to make that adjustment. And I thought he assimilated himself well at the Senior Bowl, at the East-West game, all of the major events that he got invited to. I thought he performed well. And that's what got him drafted in the 4th round. So now he's just going to have to make the transition one more time. And this is the biggest one. Can he make that leap from East-West game to the Senior Bowl to the Combine, now to the NFL? Because now you're not playing against air. You're not one-on-one. Now you got to play within a scheme, and you got to play against athletes that are supreme at the highest level. And so we'll see what Pierre Desir does. But make no mistake about it. This guy, he's a football player. And I like him. I like him a lot. And if the speed doesn't come into play, if he's able to stay on top of guys, if he gives them a cushion, if he's got safety help over the top, if he's able to stay relatively hip to hip with guys or a step away, you know, these corners that are long, and Pierre Desir is one of these longer corners. If he can stay just a step behind, just a shade away, he's always a step away and a go-go gadget arm extension away from knocking a pass down or even picking it off. He had a ridiculous one-hand pick in the game, so that length does come into play. And so in the 4th round, 127th pick overall, cornerback out of Lindenwood for me, Pierre Desir. This was close. Man, I was close to giving this guy a triple. But the question marks about the long-range speed dings him and makes him a double. But I tell you what, I like this dude a lot. I really do. And if he can continue to make plays on the football like he did in college, you may have something here, Cleveland. You may have something here in the French assassin, Pierre Desir. So you look at this draft, and it's just solid. I mean, top to bottom, there's no drop-off here in terms of quality football players. There's no 7th round or 6th round picks to water this draft down. This is just solid football player after solid football player. If you ask me, I'd rather have a draft like this than to have a draft with 12 players. And again, it's to each its own. You know, some people say, hey, the more the merrier. The more bodies I bring in, the more likely it is I'll find guys that will make this roster. I think all 6 of these guys are going to make this roster. And I'd much rather, but again, everybody doesn't have 2 1s and 2 3s, okay? It's just the simple fact of the matter is that everyone doesn't have 6 picks within the first 130. I mean, everybody doesn't have that luxury. So you got to make do with what you got. The Browns just happen to be done after the 4th round and got quality players at every single pick. And so you start with Gilbert and Manziel in the 1st round, both home runs. You go to the 2nd round, and I think Joel Bitonio is another steal for them, another home run. So that's 12. You got a double in the 3rd round in Christian Kirksey, a double in the 3rd round for Terrance West, running back out of Townsend, and then you finish up your draft with the French assassin Pierre Desir out of Lindenwood as another double. And so 12, 14, 16, 18 divided by 6. That's a triple, folks. This is an impressive draft. Still, I think, even though they're tied with the Steelers, I still think the Steelers had a better draft because they got more players. And I felt like having 8 players and having, or I think they might have drafted 9 if I'm not mistaken. The Steelers might have had 9 draft picks. I feel like 7 of those guys, maybe even 8, are going to make that roster. And those guys are all good. And so for the Steelers, for them to go in the 7th and the 6th round and find gems, because I think the Steelers got gems late in the draft, whereas the Browns, they hit on guys they were supposed to hit on in rounds that they're supposed to hit on. Even though it's a triple, I don't think they had a better draft than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, man, this is an impressive draft, if I may say so myself. So it's a triple in the 2014 NFL Draft wrap-up for the Cleveland Browns. You know how this goes. If it happens, the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Thank you for joining me. That's been the Cleveland Browns here in the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. Who's next?
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.